Hey, welcome to Unshaved. I'm Takesha, and this podcast came to be simply because I wanted to archive conversations between me and my mother. And because we talked about pursuing a creative project together for a long time now, I just figured starting a podcast would kind of fit the bill for both. Our lives and relationship have had many twists, turns, highs, and lows, and the way we've gotten through them always started with raw conversations. We're consistently pursuing a deeper understanding of not only each other and our relationship, but also of ourselves. If the topics and conversations explored in this space help you to navigate your journey in any way, then that's even better. So whether it's just myself or if I'm joined by my mom or other guests, you can expect content that is explorative, honest, and maybe even just a little bit outside the lines. Welcome to Unshaved. Thank you to those of you who are returning listeners, as well as to those of you tuning in for the first time. In this next episode, you will hear my next guest and I discuss navigating our most personal relationship outside of the one we have with ourselves. People uniquely go into relationships as the sum of all of their experiences up to the point of meeting and coming together. Whether our journeys parallel to some degree or we come from completely different worlds, it is important to truly seek to know the other person and the way they individually respond to the world around them, especially when we intend or are obligated in some way to have long-term relationships. So my husband and I discuss apologies, understanding, and forgiveness in the next 3 episodes and share how we've gotten through and continue to work through challenges as they present themselves. I think that at least some of what we share can be applied to any relationship where there is a mutual desire to build. In this episode, I am joined by a very, very special guest, my friend for over 20 years and my husband, Omar. Thank you, babe, for agreeing to be a part of the podcast. And, well, you're always a part of the podcast. Got to give you a shout out to my producer. He makes sure that the show sounds good. So he's definitely been a part of the podcast, just behind the scenes. We want to discuss apologies, understanding, and forgiveness. This is take 2 for us in our relationship. Over the years, there have been many things that we've had to apologize about, learn to understand, and certainly forgive in our relationship. So we just want to kind of talk about what has been working for us, maybe even things that haven't worked for us. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Always. So, it's so much. I'm trying to think like, dang, I don't have talking points here. Like, where would I start? And so, I don't just necessarily throw apologies out the bag, right? I have to feel like it is definitely an apology that, well, let me just say this. I don't want anybody just apologizing to me for the sake of apologizing, right? If you haven't reflected on what's happened and really see a need to apologize and you can't clearly understand what you're apologizing for, rather than just appeasing me, I don't need it. And so I don't give out apologies like that. I don't just give out an apology because someone may think that they are owed an apology. And maybe that's stubborn of me. I feel like when we had a double date that time, I was explaining that to our friends, and they were like, do you think what did they say? Stubborn ego? I can't remember, but it's my truth. And so if you get an apology from me, it's because I've definitely reflected on it, and I believe that it's necessary. What do you think when you hear apologies or even about my theory on apologies?
When I hear you say about how you would like you to receive your apologies and give an apology, all I can do is just realize that that's who you are. You've come to such a way due to your experience, due to your overstanding or understanding of people, of yourself, and of living up to your truths.
Okay.
And I think everyone's entitled to that. It's just a matter of relating to the other person or whoever your circle is. So that's what I think about it.
Well, maybe not so much in general, I'm asking, but directly in our relationship.
Well, I think you're a different individual.
Of course.
With that apology. There's one thing of making a stance, like socially. And when you're explaining it, it's kind of easier to have a distinction as to who you're speaking to or who's the audience, who's the recipient. No one can really understand or describe the intricacies of relating to a personal relationship, a marriage. It's not as easy as saying, in case of A, do B, then go to C, then go to D. It's because people have so many different faces that they wear and they have to use to navigate throughout the day. When it comes to you and I, when we relate to each other, it is something that is genuine. It is something that is, it has a lot to do with removal of egos, removal of always want to be right, and the acceptance of the other person's viewpoint, whether or not we fully agree or understand. And it's not just a case of agree just to agree to disagree. Those are more for like temporary relationships, temporary agreements. This is basically something that you live the rest of your life with. This is a person you have to live the rest of your life with. So when it comes to me receiving that in our marriage, from your perspective, I always realize that you are who you are and you are dynamic. And whether or not I agree or accept an apology or I'm expecting an apology, I know that the basis of it is that I know you mean to do me no harm.
Of course.
So with that knowledge and that reality of it, everything else seems almost water. Let's just say everything else is almost like rain. Okay. Rain, meaning that if it's a spring rain, and I'm not talking about a flood. If it's a spring rain and you happen to be caught without an umbrella, you're like, oh well, most I'll get wet and I'll have to dry my clothes, and hopefully I don't catch a cold. That's how it is. It's like, okay, we might not see eye to eye. We'll be upset at each other or with each other. And eventually, like the rain that eventually passes, we'll have to come together again. And it's not like we avoid the situation. It's not like we're saying, well, we're just going to not talk about it. We don't do that. It's like, no, we'll talk about it, but it'll be a little bit later when the rain is not so heavy.
Yeah, I definitely will be one of those people like, oh, I'll go to sleep angry. And probably when I wake up, I'll feel a lot better. I know some couples have an agreement that they don't go to bed like angry with one another. And if I'm upset and I'm tired and I feel like this is probably not going to be productive, I will go to sleep.
See, that's the thing. I don't think you should kind of like force an individual to have a discussion that they don't feel they're ready for, right? That whole go to bed. Now, if it works for people, so be it. Go to bed. Don't go to bed angry. Try and mask, get an understanding within the time period. I think that's that whole sitcom relationship. It's like, hey, it's 30 minutes. The show's about to go off. We have to wrap it up. All right. There's no cliffhangers allowed. So I'm not one for that. I do believe that you can give I do believe that I try to give you space to say, okay, we're not having a discussion right now, but we eventually will have this discussion.
I'm sorry. I had to learn that. Do you remember, like, when I was much younger, it'd be like, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about it now. Right?
Course.
But, yeah, definitely.
20 years.
Yeah. I've definitely, grown to understand. Well, I mean, because I can say that you may have been ahead of me in some things, right? And your displays and understanding over time.
But I was still ego-driven.
Ego or not ego, I still learn from you.
Thank you. But what I'm saying is that I was still at that time where I was like, no, A, B, C.
Yeah, I wasn't really.
A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay? There's no A, D without the B, C. You know, and I would say I was a bit more stringent in that kind of thinking. I was like, yeah, I know I was. I know I was very trying to be this false sense of, no, if you do it in order, it will work itself out. I'm like, brother, reality does not work like that. And I've learned that. I've learned that reality has, and relating with others, has so many nuances. It has so many beautiful deviations and so many various specs. You know, I know you, when I used to have the Monet painting, you're like, oh, I got these European stuff all in my house. But I started realizing life is like that. Life is like a bunch of dots. And when you are close to it, that dot might look like a planet, right? But when you move away from it, you'll see these various other shades, other size, other placements of dots. And even if you look further back, right, instead of just seeing a whole lot of dots, if your mind can rationalize, if your mind can capture the beauty, the sense of it, you'll realize that, oh, that's a picture, right? So that's the way I believe life and individuals are. A various amount of dots that, given the opportunity to just step back and observe and realize that these dots are actually trying to communicate. They're trying to say something.
Yeah, I think that
or relate something.
That just puts me in the mind frame of what you say in a more simplistic way, when you're just like, we're all very dynamic people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know that I contemplate and reflect a lot, right? So when I think about, you know, giving an apology, especially in our relationship, and just understanding that we are a team, and that if there were offenses, typically is not an intended offense, right? It's just more so, okay, so what happened there, you know, and did I really do something that was, you know, offensive? Try to see it from your point of view. Or a lot of times it's more or less, at least now, I don't feel like I do many things that I need to apologize for, but, you know, nobody's perfect. So typically when I give an apology, it's because I've really done some reflecting within myself. And I'm more so disappointed with myself and maybe my response to something. And I think about how I could have done it better. So when I come to you, I don't just be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, you know, or, you know, my bad about that. It's more or less like, another conversation, right? Like, this is what I may have been feeling or what I thought, you know what I mean? I don't think that our apologies are simple in that way, like, sorry babe, give me a kiss, you know, it's over. I mean, we have moments like that because not everything is a huge thing, but if it's really something that we know it needs to be addressed, it's like, an apology is cool and everything, but we need to have more of a conversation about it, and that usually brings us to a greater understanding of each other and also our relationship with one another. And sometimes that doesn't always happen in the first go round.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I feel like, it's so funny because I was talking to Felicia about this earlier today about just really understanding that this is not like a sprint. It doesn't mean that if we don't get it next month, we're just failed here.
Mm-hmm.
It may take more time, may take more attempts. This is a marathon. This is a long haul. Our finish line is way, way down whenever, we expire or whatever. But yes. Oh, because I think about something that we kind of went back and forth on for years. And it wasn't like it made our relationship sour. It's just every now and then it come back up. We talk about it again. It'd be like, okay, well, this is the last time we're talking about this. And you're like, nope, probably not the last time we're talking about it. You know what I mean? And we talk about it.
You'd love to say that. This is the last time. I'm like, nah, it's probably not.
Right. But the reason why is because I feel like I didn't really have the understanding, or like the understanding wasn't there between the both of us. I don't think you understood why I needed to understand something in more detail, and perhaps you may have not wanted to really explore the entire thing for whatever reason, maybe to preserve my feelings or something. I'm not sure, but I remember the last time we talked about it, and it was like a fresh of breath air. Okay, you were like
a fresh of breath air.
Yes,
you mean a breath of fresh air.
Damn, what time is it? You got me full and discombobulated.
I was like, wow, that doesn't sound too correct.
What did I say again? A fresh of breath air? What? That's bananas. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you. So it was a breath of fresh air.
Like you're saying, it's not a sprint, right? It is for the long haul. It's for those that want to give it the long haul. But the thing is that the other party has to be willing as well. Okay.
Absolutely, because I know I got on your nerves with that a bit.
Okay.
But when we had understanding, we really got understanding.
Yeah. And I'm talking about the process of getting there, right? Just like today, we read an instruction manual on how to operate some instrument, right? Some equipment. We read an instruction manual. I think of humans.
You read the instruction manual?
I read it to you because you don't like to read it. So I was like, I'm not always going to be called, hey, how you do this again? Like, let me speak it. Yeah, the thing is that, like the instruction manual for an equipment, right? Somehow we have this sense that we have this belief that one and done when we speak to each other, one and done, right? And I think that comes from our behavior that parents wish to have on their children, right? And because they've been indoctrinated into it by society, by their parents.
Like, don't let me say this to you again.
Exactly. Don't let me say this to you again.
Right. Okay.
But however, a machine does not change, right? A machine, the operation of that machine does not change.
Not without upgrades.
Right. But I'm saying that one standing machine, the operation is not going to change, but yet you still have to get refreshers. You still have to, every once in a while, read up on it, right? So that machine is static. Humans are dynamic. People are dynamic, right? We have the capability of having a universe in our minds. And to just say that, we spoke one time, it's a wrap. That's why I was like, yeah, this is probably not the last time. Because I know that, you can hear a word and get this image or this feeling from that word at 2 p.m. Hear the word again at 6 p.m. same day. And that word brings about a whole new realization, right? And I'm saying it as an artist because inspiration comes from different things. Something that could be mundane is all of a sudden awe-inspiring. So when I look at human relation, especially in a relationship, our marriage, it's like I give it the same application. Like, yeah, okay, this probably come up again. It probably will. But
and on a different note, we've also talked before and just been like, we might have had a conversation on something and felt a certain way. And we're like, it doesn't mean that it's off the table for us to revisit this
right,
conversation
exactly.
again.
And let's just get this right. It's not always, well, Mrs. and Mr. How shall we communicate? No. There have been heated, exchanges. And like I said, with the root being, we mean each other no harm. Right? That sets the table for a lot of exchanges that would normally not be there if you have to worry about, oh my gosh, if I say this like that, how is she going to take it? Or, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to say that. Right? With the understanding that you mean each other no harm, you have to be in the moment, right? You have to be aware of what you're saying, how you're saying it, but still be able to relate, right? And get your point across. Because there are easy ways to say stuff. There are very easy ways and easy vocabulary words that can, relate a frustration.
And when you say that, right, I think when you talk about words, because we have this too, we are from different cultures, mm-hmm. and the way you speak is different sometimes than what I would typically have been used to. So you can say a phrase a certain way, and I'm like, hold on, what?
Right.
What?
Right.
Like, oh no, damn, he doesn't even mean it that way. Like that's not even what he's saying. So I got to remember a couple of things. And it's like, okay, with him probably coming from the best place within himself. Like, I know the way I'm hearing it right now, but I don't think that that's what he's saying. So sometimes we can say the same things, just mean different things.
Right.
And after 20 something years, like this is still a thing.
Right. I remember there's a time when you was like, man, you don't even sound like being upset. Like, what?
No, I said you didn't sound like cursing.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? Put that away, right? And I think that, I like to speak in the fullness
riddles
of thoughts, right? Where I like to interconnect experiences and theories when I speak to try and give a clearer a mental visual understanding of what I'm trying to say. And I don't think a lot of people like to do that. A lot of people are like, hey, listen, bro, just say, if you want to say apple, just say apple.
There are times when I'm like, can we keep it plain?
Right. And that plain idea is relative. Okay. To me, it is very relative. It's like, I love to see, here I go again with another,
yeah, they'll get used to it.
Allegory. Is it allegory or metaphor? Allegory. All right. That's I'm describing something. So here I go with another allegory about how.
Analogy?
Is
that what you mean?
We'll see.
Okay.
But, I like to have Eureka moments, right? And when I speak, I try to give individuals a Eureka moment as well. Now, I'm not saying that I'm capable of giving people Eureka moments, but I like to, I hope to present an idea in a way that it connects other ways, other experiences that are more relatable than just my being. Right? Instances outside of myself. So instances that may have urged a certain thought, a certain feeling, brought about a certain idea, a certain reaction, right? And that way, you don't just look at me and see me speaking, or you're trying to listen to me, but the totality of these experiences that we have all shared and possibly had the same kind of, elicited the same kind of feeling, the same reaction.
But in relationship to me, that's something that I had to really learn. Like I like to stay focused, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And how does this specifically apply to us? So it took some patience and willingness on my end to give it a listen. Like, right? To be like, okay, let me just listen to the entirety of this to really try to understand where you're coming from. Because I think that if there was a meter of impatience, you know, like my meter would go up a little higher. Like you have more patience than I do. But I appreciate it. You know, I remember the way I explained it to someone. I was like, you know, Omar and I can see things different ways, and that's perfectly fine. And I think before, instead of trying to like argue my point against yours or anything like that, it's like, how do I incorporate that into my vision? So the way I like to think of it is that, like, you know, say that me being a single person in my own mind, having, let's just call it for the sake of this particular example, narrow tunnel vision, right? And with you being a part of my life and sharing your point of view, it just gives me a wider perception. It opens up my peripheral vision. And that's what I appreciate about it. That's what I appreciate about it. And taking time to really discuss things with you, like breaking it down to the very smallest aspect, and because of your patience in our communication, and also I guess wanting us to have better communication, you know, it takes that type of effort in that way. At least it's taking that type of effort for us to get to the place of real understanding that we continue to grow on. So that's it for this episode of Unshaved. Thank you for making time to listen in. Your engagement is very much appreciated. So let me know that you're rocking with the show by sharing this podcast information with others, dropping a comment, clicking the star or like buttons, downloading, subscribing, applauding, or whatever it is that your platform allows you to do. Also, you can show the show some love through donations on Anchor. Remember that when you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you will get to see when we're releasing new episodes and hear the teasers for the upcoming show as well. Just type in Unshaved Podcast. It's my pleasure to share this space with you all. Until the next time, let's continue to live with love and light.